Hello, this is Billy Core from the Nostalgia Mall, and welcome to the first real new video of 2020. And we're going to kick off the year and the decade with doing something kind of cruel and unusual to our old friend Microsoft Windows XP. You see right here we have my former main laptop. This is my Lenovo ThinkPad T530. I received this for Christmas in 2017, and it was replaced by my Dell Latitude E6540 a few weeks ago for this year's Christmas. And so it's been a couple of weeks since I've actually turned this laptop on. I have plans for it involving using it as a Linux computer running the latest version of Kubuntu, because I feel like I really need to start teaching myself Linux before it's too late. But before I do that, I'm going to do something kind of nasty to this computer. You see the specs of this computer. It has a 2.6 gigahertz Intel Core i3 3rd Gen Ivy Bridge, has 8 gigs of DDR3 memory, and it has a 250 gig SSD, which was originally in my Dell Latitude I got the other week, but I popped this in here. So these specs are a little bit modern for running Windows XP, but we're going to do it anyway. I had this crazy idea yesterday. Why not do a video of trying to install Windows XP on this Ivy Bridge era ThinkPad? I have pretty high hopes for this. I've had XP on an Ivy Bridge system before, my Optiplex 3010, that was fairly recent actually. And I was able to accomplish that simply by using this USB flash drive with Easy to Boot and a Windows XP ISO image saved to it. And thanks to Easy to Boot, it actually installs a SATA AHCI driver into the Windows XP setup, which allows it to install through AHCI without having to turn on legacy mode support in the BIOS. And not only that, after XP is installed, you can run a program called Snappy Driver Installer, which it's hard to explain how it does it, but it downloads all the known drivers for your system, no matter what the operating system it is. It goes back to Windows 2000 for compatibility. And at least on my Optiplex 3010, it was able to install everything for Windows XP. So hopefully the same should happen with this ThinkPad. So without further ado, let's turn this on. And let's first go to the BIOS, because there is one setting I need to change in order for this to work properly. Okay, it'll get there someday. There we go. Let's see. Let's go to Setup. And here you can get the full specs of this computer. It's a Core i5-3320M. It's a dual core with hyper-threading. Having to do this at a weird angle because of the camera position. But we want to go down here. Okay, that's already set to HCI. That's good. And what we want to do is turn off Secure Boot, because that is not Windows XP friendly at all. And I believe that's probably it. Let's set UEFI Legacy Boot to from UEFI only to, we'll go with both. And presumably that should be it. Let me plug the flash drive up and exit saving changes. Entering boot menu. Okay, USB HDD Kingston Data Traveler, I believe that's it. So far so good. Okay, I have a little bit of everything on this drive. I've got Windows 7, Windows 10, Windows XP, and a couple of Linux distros on here, and a Hiren's Boot CD. But today we need Windows, specifically XP, and we'll go with XP Professional with the unofficial Service Pack 4 slipstreamed in. Okay, and this is where it's going to detect the SATA AHCI driver. And it found it. That's exactly what we want to see. And we'll go ahead and tell it to start. Fingers crossed. I remember seeing the screen all the time on my Dell Dimension 2350 back in the day whenever I would reformat it. Took a lot longer too because it was loading from a CD. And that computer had a Service Pack 1 built into it. So a lot more lightweight than what we're installing right now. Set up a starting Windows. There we go. And unpartitioned space, that's the SSD we have in here. And we want to do NTFS quick. And for some reason it's seeing it as the F drive. Okay, I restarted it. I've had to do this before. Sometimes with an XP setup on here, I'm loading the ISO into the memory. That way, as soon as that setup starts, I can unplug the flash drive from the computer and it will have no choice but to make the Windows install as drive C. It's just a pet peeve of mine. I gotta have Windows on drive C, even though this is just a temporary install. Now this will take a few minutes to do, because this is a pretty big ISO for Windows XP. It's got all 3 official service packs and the 1 unofficial one. Okay, now let's unplug that. And hopefully we'll have better luck this time. It's a minor little setback there. Look how quick it loaded everything since it was loading it from the memory. Okay, let's just start from scratch here. Okay, now it's going to be drive C. That's what we want to see. Okay, now we can resume from where we left off. Boy, that's fast. Keep in mind, this computer is from like, I think 2012, 2013, and Windows XP came out in 2001. So, we're talking about a 12-year gap in technology. It still amazes me how long Windows XP had support for it. Had support until 2014. It's the operating system that would never die, and in fact, in a lot of cases, it still won't die. XP, I know I say this in about every video I do involving XP, but it still does not seem that old to me for some reason. I guess because I used it for so long. And it was the operating system that got me through my teenage years as well. I really learned a lot about computers with XP. Some good times with the Dell Dimension 2350 and the various laptops I had at that time. Okay, we're rebooting now, and we need to actually go back to the Easy to Boot menu. And I'll tell you why in a moment. And that's because we need to load the second portion of Windows XP setup, the GUI portion, from into memory from the flash drive. We'll need to do install XP step 2 for 512 and up systems. And we got to choose number 4 again. And it's going to load it into memory again. This will take a couple of minutes. Alright, let's, boy, that's weird seeing that splash screen on this computer. And here's the Windows XP setup screen we know all so well. This is one of those things that will be imprinted into my head until the day I die. An exciting new look, yeah. Despite it being 18 and a half years old. But I've always loved the way Windows XP's looked. I go against the grain when it comes to UI design. I have always loved bright, colorful design language and operating systems. And XP was really good with that, with the Luna theme, especially the stock blue one. Oh, it was so good looking. I've just never really cared for very dark colored color schemes in operating systems for some reason. So we will let this do its thing. It's pretty much going to be your standard issue Windows XP install. So I'll pause the video here until something interesting happens. Okay, it's wanting some information, so I'll just type my name in. Okay, date and time looks correct. Just change it to Eastern Standard Time. Okay, I had my head turned and it restarted a lot quicker than I thought it would. Well, look how fast that loads. Well, I know this screen too well as this. Oh yeah, memories. And obviously we're not going to get the cool intro music. We'll go with just the regular settings, put my name in. Well, and try not to miss my chair when I sit down. Alright, well, we've successfully installed Windows XP, but will we be able to successfully install the drivers for Windows XP? Well, once this is loaded, we'll find out with Snappy Driver Installer. Okay, remove the something disk driver. Yes, that's something for easy to boot. I didn't remove it at one time several years ago, and it caused the computer to blue screen, so unplug this, we don't need it anymore. And plug my other flash drive up that has the files for Snappy Driver. Okay, mouse is working. Of course, I'm using a USB mouse. Let's see what the... Yep. Intel Core i5-3320M. Highly inappropriate operating system for this type of computer. And of course, since this is a 32-bit operating system, it's only seeing 3.28 gigs of RAM. whereas this computer actually has 8 gigs of RAM. So let me find the SDI folder, and we'll copy it to the desktop. Okay, we'll unplug it and load up Snappy Driver, and hopefully it can pick up the required drivers. Tell it to unblock and let's see, the nice thing about Snappy Driver is when you first set it up on a different computer, it'll download most of the network drivers that are around for any kind of computer. So it already has the driver for the Wi-Fi card, which we'll go ahead and install. That way we can install the other drivers, which need to be downloaded from the internet. Okay. Okay, it's trying to connect to my network. It's acquiring the network address. And it's connected. So we'll close out a Snappy Driver and open it back up. It just works better that way. Don't ask me why. And we need to download the driver indexes, which will take a minute. But I have pretty high hopes for this project. Looks like it's already recognizing what the devices are. It's just a matter of getting the drivers and getting them installed. Okay, now we can select the drivers we want. ThinkPad Bluetooth, Ricoh PCIe host controller, some chipset stuff, the network card, the Ethernet card that is, NVIDIA audio for the HDMI, or DisplayPort I think it is on this computer, Realtek audio, PM device from Lenovo, NVIDIA 5400M video. This actually has dual graphics, NVIDIA and Intel, but it's only picking up the NVIDIA right now, it looks like, but hopefully that should be good enough for demonstration purposes. Because again, this is not staying on this computer. This is purely for experimentation and for video's sake. And the touchpad, webcam, and the USB drivers. I'm not sure if it'll give us USB 3 support, but it'll give us some kind of support, I guess, for something. Now it's got to download the drivers, which is 3.17 gigabytes. This may take a little while. It says 7 hours remaining, but it's not going to be that long. At most, maybe 10 minutes. So I'll pause the video here and come back when it's being installed. Okay, that was more like 20 minutes, but it seems to have downloaded what it needed to download. It probably would have been quicker if I'd had this connected to Ethernet in hindsight, but anyway, looks like it's installing the Bluetooth driver now. This will probably take a few minutes as well, not as long as it was to download though, I imagine. Okay, everything is now installed, supposedly. In fact, we've got sound as well. So we'll go ahead and restart, and hopefully we'll have a working video driver. In hindsight, I probably shouldn't have installed that AHCI driver from Snappy Driver. It may cause us a blue screen. I hope not. Well, look at that. We've got full-fledged resolution now. I know there were a couple of minor drivers that Snappy Driver didn't want to do anything with. I think that was the fingerprint reader and something else. I think some kind of trusted platform module. But we can check device manager. Yeah, biometric coprocessor. I believe that's the fingerprint reader. And this unknown device right here. I'm not sure what that is, but everything else seems to be working great though. Got our NVIDIA card for video. Again, this is a dual video card computer. It has both Intel and NVIDIA, but I think XP can only see the one. There's our integrated camera, our network cards for Ethernet and Wi-Fi. And our sound card, which is Realtek High Definition, and our USB drivers, which I don't think it'll do USB 3, just because it's this operating system's a bit too old. But yeah, everything seems to be working great. There's our SSD and our optical drive. We'll do a quick little DX diag. And get a few more things to know about this computer. There's our i5-3320M clocked at 2.6 gigahertz. It says 4 CPUs. It's actually a 2-core CPU with hyper-threading, but XP doesn't know the difference. And 1 gig of video RAM for our NVIDIA NVS 5400M. And our screen resolution is 1366 by 768. I've always wanted this computer to have a 1080p display, which would be really neat, especially with Windows XP, but beggars can't be choosers. There's our audio and stuff like that. Real quick, let's see if I can find a good XP era game to install on here, just for the heck of it. Okay, this isn't really that much of an XP game. It's more of a late Windows 98 ME era game, but I remember my aunt playing this on her 2001 Dell Dimension 8200 with XP, so we'll just call this an XP game. This is Real Mist, which is a really nice revision of the original Myst game from 1993. I've actually never really played it before, but I'm just installing this game just as a proof of concept of a computer from 2013 or so playing such an old game. So we'll let it install. Okay, we're ready to go, so let's go ahead and play. Okay, don't know why it closed out and left my resolution at 1 by 1. So let's try this again. It's making a bit more of an effort this time, it looks like. For the time this game came out, the graphics were really incredible. Well, I know that sounds so very, very well from the original game. It's just good old-fashioned point-and-click goodness at its best. Yeah, look at this. This is really nice. And you can use the arrow keys, which I don't think you could do in the original game. It's been so long since I played the Myst games, I've forgotten what to do. You can pretty much walk wherever you want. You weren't able to do that in the original game. I actually need to sit down and play the original Myst sometime. My aunt and I spent so much time playing it on her Gateway 2000. And for that matter, even on the 822. Can you go in the water? No, it doesn't look like it. Can you climb this? Yes, you can. So yeah, pretty impressive. Okay, so much for that. Okay, yeah, again, it's been so... I haven't fully played this game since, like, 1997, maybe 1998, so... The original, that is, but this is pretty much the exact same game, just with higher powered graphics. And that, my friends, is installing Windows XP on a computer way too new for it. And I think in most cases this probably would not have worked because, for one thing, finding the proper AHCI driver would have been a pain in the butt without Easy to Boot. Of course, you could have also turned on Legacy Boot, which would have helped, but still. And finding the drivers once XP was installed would have been a pain without Snappy Driver Installer, because I doubt these drivers are available on Lenovo's website or anywhere for that matter, but Snappy Driver is just a miracle worker, and I highly recommend getting Snappy Driver for your computing needs. Again, this is not staying on this computer. I'm going to be turning this into a Linux laptop as soon as this camera is shut down. I have a much more appropriate system for running Windows XP on, so it is completely unnecessary running Windows XP on this computer. I just did this for the sake of this video, which I hope you enjoyed watching. So until next time, this is Billy Core, signing off. Thank you for visiting the Nostalgia Mall. If you liked what you saw, please like, subscribe, and follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also support me on Patreon if you would like. The link to all of these are down below. Until next time, this is Billy Core, signing off.